What's up, golf sickos? We are live in the doghouse. I wanted to talk to you guys. There's a lot on my mind. I've got some get off my lawn golf takes that I want to get out there. I had an incredible experience last week playing Cypress Point. I wanted to tell you guys a little bit about that. Talk a little bit about Tommy Fleetwood, about these heartbreaking Keegan Bradley comments that he made, his first public comments since the disaster at Bethpage. So let's hop into it. By the way, we got these hats, these Golf Sicko hats. They're in the description or they're in our bio or wherever it is. I'm loving these hats. We got the little dog logo here on the back. You can see Dan on Golf. Best way to support the mission, which is to bring you more of this sort of content, is to buy one of these hats and signal to the world that you are a golf sicko. I'm going to switch hats because I'm going to tell you guys about a very special day that I had last week. 6 days ago, I got to play Cypress Point with my dad and with my brother-in-law and with my sister's boyfriend. And I just wanted to tell you guys a little bit about the experience because I realize how lucky I am to do a lot of this cool stuff in golf. And we're a community here. I want you guys to feel invested. I missed the lives. We'll be back with the lives starting in the new year where I can interact with you guys in the chat. But I want you guys to kind of live vicariously through me. So my dad hit me up a couple months ago and said, I know that you're traveling all the time, and I know the last thing that you want to do is travel more during your sort of off season. This is kind of my off season as far as travel goes. We're still filming some stuff. We went up to Stanford last week. So went up to Stanford to film the first episode of season 2 of Scratch University, our college series, which you do over on the Scratch YouTube channel, where we go tour the best college facilities, the best college programs. We talk to the coaches. We look at the facilities. We get to play with a lot of the best players. So last year we did Auburn, Florida, Georgia, and Texas. So we were all SEC. We're trying to be a little bit more, we're trying to get out of the SEC a little bit this year. So we went to Stanford, which is iconic, obviously, with Tom Watson, Tiger Woods, and even more recently, Michael Thorbjornsen and Carl Phillips. And we're going to Florida State in a couple of weeks, but we went up to Stanford. So I had a great day at Stanford, played with 3 awesome kids. We played with Nathan Wang, I think is his last name, lefty, who actually transferred from Cal to Stanford, which you don't do. That's like going from the Red Sox to the Yankees, so we had some fun with that. Dean Grazerman is part of the Grazerman Golf Dynasty. You might be familiar with the Summer Haze Golf Dynasty in Utah with, Preston and Daniel and Boyd. But there's a Grazerman Golf Dynasty in New Jersey. Max Grazerman, who you guys obviously know if you're following this, you're a golf sicko. 5 second places on the PGA Tour already in his first 53 starts. Just finished second in Japan, I think it was. Yeah, I finished second in Japan to Xander Schauffele. Great player. Top 50 in the world now for sure. Might even be top 30 or top 40. So we played with Dean Grazerman, who's his younger brother, and there's an even younger one, Reed Grazerman, who plays at Princeton. And he just won the St. Andrews Intercollegiate, the little event that they do. I think there's only like 4 teams that play at St. Andrews. But we play with Dean Grazerman, Nathan Wang, and then TK. His name is Ratchanan Chetanawat. I think I pronounced that right. Probably not. He goes by TK, which he was telling me everyone in Thailand has nicknames because the names are too long. 18-year-old kid. He's a sophomore. He's, I think, the youngest winner ever of an Asian Tour event. He won an Asian Tour event when he was 15 years old. He also played in the first live event when he was 15. So he was telling us stories about that. So went to Stanford, had a great day at Stanford, then drove about hour, 20 minutes down to the Carmel, Monterey area and got to play Cypress. We were unaccompanied, which they do a lot of unaccompanied play in the mornings. I think there was like 3 or 4 unaccompanied groups. So didn't get to use the range, but showed up there about 25 minutes before the tee time. You're unaccompanied at one of these places. You don't want to hang around too long. It's a place for the members and you're a guest and you want to be deferential and treat the place with respect. So we got there, hit a couple putts. I haven't been shaking like that on a first tee shot in a really long time. The first tee at Cypress, if you watch the Walker Cup or if you've been lucky enough to be there, it's a pretty simple tee shot. You got to hit it over this tree on the right. There's a little hedge right off the tee box, which my brother-in-law actually hit it into, but which was a little embarrassing. But you just got to hit it over this tree. But I was shaking. My hands were shaking. It was cold. It was probably 52 degrees, 53 degrees in the morning. Typical Monterey Peninsula sort of Pebble Beach weather. I flushed it down the middle. And I was, I said to myself, I wrote on my scorecard, I said at the beginning of the day, which I would advise you guys to do. It's a nice reminder. I like to walk and I have a little scorecard keeper so I can make notes in my scorecard and doesn't get all jumbled in my back pocket. I wrote, "Be kind. This is a privilege." And what a privilege it was. It's different than a lot of these. I've been lucky to play a lot of these incredible courses, and a lot of them just kind of kick you in the teeth repeatedly. They're so difficult. Cypress is not like that. The greens were fast and they're hard, and you can make big numbers out there, but it's only like 65, 6,600 yards, par 72. You can really get after the first 10 holes. There's, I think, 4 par 5s in the first 10 holes, and I was just in heaven all day. The obviously the holes by the water get the most attention, 15, 16, 17. I'll tell you how I did on those in a little bit here, but the inland holes are incredible. There's this big dune, this massive dune. I think it's behind the 14th green or 13th green, somewhere there, but the caddy, my caddy was this guy, Sergio, 32-year-old, played college golf at San Jose State. Amazing guy. And he was telling me that the course historian had written that the Cypress course historian, that every hole except for 1 or 2, I think, go toward or away from that dune. So I thought the inland holes were, you naturally compare it to Pebble Beach because it's right next to it. One of them's public, one of them's private. I thought the inland holes were a lot stronger than the Pebble Beach inland holes. Think about that 8th hole, that 9th hole, that drivable par 4. Even the 10th hole is tough, kind of slight dog-leg right. I just had an amazing day. I wasn't going to let my play dictate how I felt about the golf course, which I've become better at in my old age. I'm going to be 31 in a couple months. I'm feeling old. But it was amazing. I bogeyed 3 of the final 4 holes to shoot 4 over. So I was playing really well. I was even par through 10. Unfortunately, I bogeyed both of the famous par 3s on the back, which I was thinking about those the whole round, and I bogeyed both of them. The first one was playing only about 135 yards, and I hit a pitching wedge that I just de-lofted a little bit. I don't know if I was juiced up or adrenaline. I hit it in the back bunker, just a dead spot, and I actually hit a remarkable bunker shot from there to get it to about 3 feet, and because I'm a ball and hole guy, and that's going to be kind of the next thing we talk about, obviously I wanted to putt it. Missed it. Didn't even hit the hole. So bogeyed 15, then went to 16, took that amazing walk through the trees to 16. I was expecting 16 to play like 220, 215, 225 in that range. I was expecting to be able to hit a 4-iron. I was wrong. It was playing all of 245. And the other thing that's interesting about 16 is, you always see the view from behind the player where you're looking at the whole ocean. It's honestly built more like a short par 4 than it is like a par 3. There's a whole fairway down the left side. And because Cypress, a lot of wealthy old members, they don't have a 230-yard carry in their bag. So they hit driver or 3-wood left, and then they wedge it on the green. If you look at the hole from behind the green back toward the tee, it looks like a short par 4. So I hit my driving iron off the tee, made just the most standard bogey in the world. Hit it in the left rough. Hit a very mech chip to about 12 feet. Didn't make the putt. But then I was watching my dad tee off, and he had a 3-wood, and he was playing 1 tee up. So it was only about 15 yards ahead. And I'm thinking, this has got no chance. This has got absolutely no chance. He hits it. He picks his tee up right away. And I didn't even realize that there was a fairway there down the left side. He was right in the middle of the fairway. I think he also made a bogey, but just an amazing, amazing experience. Speaking of ball and hole, I'm going to go back to the Golf Sicko hat. Actually, you know what? Yeah, there's a little bit of a hat line here, so I'm going to cover it with the Golf Sicko hat. We're just switching hats today. I posted a video just today about sort of my 5 off-season golf takes, my get off my lawn takes, getting deep into my 30s. So I wanted to get off my chest 5 takes that I had. And one of them is no gimmies. That's the first one. So I'm going to give you my 5 kind of off-season golf takes that are sort of get off my lawn, the older, the 30s Danny. Number 1, gimmies are lame. They just are. I mean, I never understand the logic of you're playing a sport where there's a tiny hole. It's about this big, 450 yards away, 400 yards away, and there's bunkers and there's water and there's rough in the way, and you do all this work to get the ball within 3 feet of that little hole, and then you pick it up? I mean, it just makes absolutely no sense. What ends up happening is you're going to miss a lot of those, so you end up getting a handicap that is too low, which I have been guilty of in the past before I had this awakening. I really had this awakening in Ireland with the gimmies because they just weren't a thing. Like, it's just not really a thing in Ireland, and I felt like my handicap was too low. I've gotten so much better at golf, and my handicap's only on down like a shot. I'm down to a +1, even though I'm 5 shots better than I ever was, I feel like, because I'm actually putting them out. And, if it's so close that you're not going to miss it, just go up and knock it in. And if you're saying, well, I need to take gimmies for pace of play purposes, it sounds like you're playing too slow everywhere else. That would be my take on that. So that's number one. Gimmies are just lame. You're lying to yourself. I promise you, play the next month without gimmies, see what happens to your handicap, but also see what happens to your soul. You're going to feel cleaner. You're going to feel more unfettered. You're going to feel free because you're not lying to yourself about what you shot. Go out there, shoot a number. It's golf. No one cares what you shoot. It's all about yourself and feeling good about yourself. Number two, no pros and amateur events. No, I should say no reinstated. Obviously, there's no pros and amateur events. No reinstated pros and amateur events. Now, this topic has been getting a lot of information. I'm curious your thoughts. I'd love to hear them in the comments. Because the U.S. Mid-Am was the failed former Tour Pro Open, is what I called it. 6 of the 8 quarterfinalists, including the winner, reinstated touring professionals. That is not the spirit of the amateur game. Bobby Jones is rolling over in his grave somewhere. Look, I think turning pro should mean something. If you play pro basketball for a couple years and then you flame out of the NBA, you're always a professional basketball player. You played pro basketball. You're a pro basketball player. I don't see why it's any different in golf. And the Mid-Am has a real problem on their hands. I've been talking to some of my friends at the USGA. I'm like, you guys got to do something about this because it's become the failed Tour Pro Open. Like the best players, 6 of the 8 quarterfinalists are guys who tried their luck at pro golf. And when you play pro golf, you are practicing every day. And you're practicing for multiple hours every day, and you're playing in all these competitions. It's just different. And that just because you're not playing as much doesn't mean that part goes away, right? Like, let's say you're a former Tour Pro, and obviously Colton O said that he's trying to get his amateur status back, which it's nothing personal against Colt. 199 starts in the PGA Tour, $4.3 million in earnings. Like, if he's going to get his amateur status back, we might as well just amateur status might not even be a thing. Anyone can play in amateur events if you want to. Just say you're an amateur. I don't think that should happen, obviously. But like a guy like that, my game's not good. My game's not good. You give these guys a month to practice for the U.S. Mid-Am, and that proness comes back. It doesn't just go away. So I think it's pretty simple. If you turn pro, I have no problem with you playing in club events. Clubs can make their own rules if they want to let pros play. If you have a handicap, I got no problem with you having a handicap. There's no rule against pros having a handicap. So you can play and you can leave it up to the clubs if they want to let you play in the club championship, but you should not be able to play in USGA events if you played as a professional golfer. You should not be able to play in USGA amateur events. I think it's pretty simple. Number 3, no long putters. I'm talking the arm lock. The USGA tried to get rid of this a couple years ago by getting rid of anchoring, but people found a way around it. The arm lock I don't understand how that's not anchoring. It's literally anchored to your wrist. And then you'll see guys who have their left hand so close to their chest that you really just can't tell if they're anchoring or not. It's a loophole. It's lame. I think there's an easy fix here. Just have a maximum length that a putter can be. 39 inches, 40 inches. Gets rid of that problem. Number 4, stop cutting down all the trees. And this is going to be something we talk about in a bit here when we recap the DP World India Championship. It's such a trend in world golf. And I get it. You look at a plan. You look at the original photos of a golf course in 1920 and it doesn't have trees. Well, trees grow. That's something that they do, especially in big, beautiful, fertile places like golf courses. I think trees are amazing. I'm very pro-tree. I understand why they're getting rid of them. Opens up the vista. It makes it easier for the members. That's why I think a lot of members like it, is because they can kind of just hit driver wherever they want. But especially for professional events, trees are really important to challenging the best players in the world. I think trees are fun. They provide shade, which is awesome. When you miss it, you get to try to hit it under a tree or around a tree or over a tree. I'm just tired of watching golf courses where you can just step up there with driver, hit it as hard as you can. I remember what Rory said when they went to Philly Cricket for the Truist this year. He was like, look, when you play these old golf courses that have been renovated or restored is the word that they use, you just hit driver everywhere and deal with it later. And I think trees are an asset, not an enemy. And again, I get it, better growing conditions. I think if you're a golf course by the ocean, you can get away with it, a links course, but getting rid of all these trees from these parkland courses where there's trees everywhere else, it leaves them looking naked. And then my last one, my 5th one of my get off my lawn chapter of this video here is, no cut events stink. They're becoming way more common with Live Golf starting with their 54 holes, no cut, everyone around for the weekend. The PGA Tour answers with their signature events. A lot of those have no cuts. I think it's lame. I think one of the great parts of our game is the meritocracy. Everyone's starting from zero. I said it a million times in the first season of Full Swing. There's this thing called the cut, the 36-hole cut. And if you don't make it, you leave with nothing. Everyone starts from zero. I think it's a really unique part of our sport. I think the best format for a golf tournament is 100 and something players and a 36-hole cut. It becomes a tournament of its own. top players hate missing cuts. You can see it. They grind it out. They fist pump. And guys who are trying to keep their status or trying to, establish themselves as pro, making the cut is a huge notch in their cap. So, and the argument for, we want with the stars around for the weekend, that's why there's no cuts. Number one, the stars don't miss that many cuts. That's why they're stars. And number two, if they're 15 shots back, are they really moving the needle? And also, I think it's a lesson to kids. You might say, oh, well, what if a kid buys a ticket to, our kid is coming to see Rory McIlroy play on Saturday, and he misses the cut, and the kid doesn't get to see him play. That's a lesson to the kid. You got to earn your keep in life. Nothing's handed to you. Just because you're Rory McIlroy doesn't mean you have some God-given right to play the weekend. So I'm over no-cut events. I'm over a lot of things. This is a lot of me complaining. That's what I said it was going to be. This was the Get Off My Lawn chapter. Okay, let's jump into the news. Tommy Fleetwood wins the DP World India Championship. This was an incredible event to watch, largely because of the trees. This was the anti-Oakmont. This was the anti-Philly cricket. There were trees absolutely everywhere, to the point where Rory McIlroy, I don't know about the last 3 rounds, but in the first round, he didn't even bring his driver with him to the golf course. That's how tight it was out there. It was fun watching guys play for position. It was fun watching guys, not be able to just step up there with driver, whack it, and figure it out after. Amazing year for Tommy continues. It was a great scene. Frankie Fleetwood, who is sort of growing up before our eyes, Frankie Fleetwood, Charlie Woods, Bennett Scheffler. We're watching these kids grow up because their dads are in the public eye all the time. But that was the first time I think that Tommy was able to celebrate with Frankie on the final green. So awesome scene there. And what a year for Tommy. What a year for Tommy. So top point earner in the Ryder Cup. He was 4-1. I think he's 11-3 overall. Amazing Ryder Cup record. Obviously got his first PGA Tour win. Won the FedEx Cup. He's in the top 5 of the world rankings. He's actually moved up to number 2 in data golf behind only Scotty Scheffler. He's ahead of Rahm and Rory. Obviously, that data golf algorithm is heavily weighted toward recent results. But Tommy's been probably the 3rd best player this year, you could say, behind Scotty and Rory, which is going to be an interesting player of the year conversation. We'll see how Rory fares in the Middle East trying to win another race to Dubai. But it was awesome watching Tommy get the win. One of the more universally liked characters in our sport. If you don't like Tommy Fleetwood, that's a you problem. And, a major championship is the next thing on his list. I think he's going to win one in 2026. I think he's got the monkey off his back as far as winning in the United States. He's got that confidence now, that swagger. There's no more scar tissue there. That's all away. And we know how good his game is, how solid his ball striking is, and how good he's been in the majors recently. All right, next thing I want to talk about, Keegan Bradley. So Keegan Bradley, losing Ryder Cup captain, which will be next to his name forever, lost the Ryder Cup at home. It's a tough one. And this is what he was talking about. He said, if you win when you take this job as the Ryder Cup captain, you're really putting your neck on the line a little bit. If your team wins, you're a hero. If they lose, especially at home, especially in New York, where everything's just kind of bigger, it's a stain forever. And I felt bad. So he's making his first public comments since the Ryder Cup. He's speaking at the Travelers Championship Media Day with Chris Berman with Boomer, which is electric. Love Boomer. One of the reasons why I wanted to get into sports broadcasting in the first place. And he said he's never going to get over it. Let's watch this clip.
The stakes are, you win, it's glory for a lifetime. You lose, it's I'm going to have to sit with this the rest of my life. There's no part of me that thinks that I'll ever get over this. When you take the job, you know of a couple different things you're going to have to do. You're going to have to make those calls to the guys that don't make it. And you know that you're going to have to deal with whatever comes with this. And that's part of what comes with being a captain. I'd love to play in another one, who knows. This effing event has been so brutal to me. I don't know if I want to play. No, I do, but it's such a weird thing to love something so much that it just doesn't give you anything. So it's tough.
Now you can tell that this is weighing on him, and I think back on the Ryder Cup, and I was looking at the scores, looking at sort of the breakdowns this morning as I was getting ready to do this video, and 15-13 doesn't tell nearly the story. The story is those first 2 days. Let's not forget, going into Sunday, it was 11.5 to 4.5, and that's what Keegan said. Those first 2 days were a nightmare. They were as bad as it possibly could have gone. Not just the score, but the fans making a fool out of themselves largely. The golf course playing like TPC Bethpage, not Bethpage Black. No rough. Greens were pillow soft the whole week. It was unrecognizable. I remember being there and a lot of people in the crowd who were New Yorkers who they were like, this was easy. This course was harder when I played it. Why is it playing easier for the pros than it is for me and my buddies when we camped out to play in the morning? And but this is the plight of the Ryder Cup captain. It's a difficult job because you win, you're the man, right? Luke Donald is a hero. He's a hero now. He won two. But I mean, if Russell Henley gets one of those putts to the hole on 17 or 18, and Europe collapses, like they really did collapse. They won one match on Sunday. Ludwig Oberg was the only one who won a match, which was kind of amazing when you look at the stats. And the only person who left Rome without a point was Rasmus Højgaard, who was a European. And that's because every American except for Patrick Cantlay, who lost to Ludwig, got at least a half a point on Sunday. But the more I think of it, the more this is a player issue. And I don't think that the reason that the U.S. missed all those putts was because of Keegan Bradley. But that's when you're the leader of a team, you take the credit when they win and you take the blame when they lose. And I said this a lot this week. I think it's the players. I think the Ryder Cup captaincy is one of the more overblown positions in our sport. Your job as the Ryder Cup captain is to get your players to care, and I think Keegan did all he could. At a certain point, the players have to look inward. And I think just looking at the way the Europeans talk about the Ryder Cup, the way they act at the Ryder Cup, I think the fans fired up the European team big time. I think them being so personal, it made them feel like it was us against the world, and it was. If you were on the grounds, it did feel like it was Europe against the world. But I also just look at the posts afterwards, and a lot of the U.S. players were posting like, yeah, it was great to represent my country. Thank you to everyone at the PGA of America. There was no like, this is heartbreaking. We can't keep losing this. It just seems like it matters a little bit more to the players. And I don't know that Keegan can just snap his finger and make the players care more and try. And not that they weren't trying harder, but it certainly seemed like the European players lean into the team aspect of it more. I mean, the Americans dominated in singles. They're clearly much more comfortable in singles. When they're playing in foursomes, it's almost like I don't really know what to do with my hands. I don't know. You saw these Europeans and they were grabbing each other's faces. They were going crazy the whole time. There was just more of a team spirit, and I think that comes from the players. So hopefully a new generation of Americans, looking at the Akshays, looking at the Luke Clantons, looking at the Jackson Coivens, hopefully these guys feel differently, feel a little bit more passionately about the team competition part of the Ryder Cup. But, players make or miss the putts, and that was the story. Now, why do they do that? Why do our players keep underperforming? Maybe they're not quite as motivated as the Europeans, but again, I think that's really hard for a captain to just snap his fingers and say, "You guys need to care more." I think it needs to come from internally. But I feel for Keegan because, he said he was talking, and maybe we can play this clip, but he was talking about. I'd really love to play in another Ryder Cup. And then he almost caught himself and he's like, would I really love to play in another Ryder Cup? Because this event has kicked me in the balls repeatedly, and it has. It's a Shakespearean almost tragedy, right? Like he gets passed over for the Ryder Cup in Italy. Then because of how passionate he was and how heartbroken he was, and because we all saw it play out on Netflix, I think that was one of the reasons, if not the main reason, he gets the captaincy for New York. Then he plays so well that if the captain was literally anyone else besides himself, he would have been on the team. He has this really difficult choice where he either lays down his arms, right, and probably knew that he was one of the 12 best Americans, but decides, am I really going to be the first one since Arnold Palmer to be a playing captain? And I think if Keegan had the resume of a Tiger Woods or even the resume of a Scotty Scheffler, I think he's more likely to play. But I think putting himself in the same sentence as Arnold Palmer made him uncomfortable. So he tries to do the good guy move, and then they lose. At home. He's 39. He'll be 41, I guess, at the next Ryder Cup. It's hard for guys in their 40s to keep up. He played amazing this year. But I think maybe there was part of that was because he was the captain, and he seems to thrive in the chaos, which is why I said my dog's trying to break in now. It's not going to happen, which is why I said I thought he should have played, because I thought his game would fall off a cliff being made the captain. I thought it was too much, but I think he thrived in the chaos, and I think that arena between the ropes was a sanctuary for him, and it gave him this calm, and he had this incredible year, and who knows if that's going to happen. But I just felt for him, and I feel for any losing Ryder Cup captain because it's not their fault. It's just not their fault. I mean, there's a certain level of competency that you have to reach as a captain, which I think Keegan absolutely reached. At the end of the day, it's on the players. But it's hard not to feel for a guy who clearly feels really deeply about this competition and about his country and tried to do the right thing. And that's sports sometimes. That can be very, very cruel. So looking forward to this weekend. We got the Black Desert Championship in Utah. I've been talking to a couple players. They say it's one of the best golf courses that they've ever seen. They're loving it. They said this course is absolutely beautiful. It's brand new in Utah. I've been meaning to get out there. Looks amazing in the desert there. At elevation, so I expect the scores to be super, super low this week. Getting to be crunch time in the FedEx Fall. Guys are playing for their livelihood. I'm looking at Joel Damon, 103rd, I think, in the standings now. We need Joel to have a good week. I need Joel to have full status next year. But yeah, really looking forward to watching this week. Fun stream, talking to you guys about everything that's going on in golf. Yeah, I'll speak to you all soon.